If you're serious about making your first $100,000 a month, you need to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a business owner. Most people chase random opportunities, jump from idea to idea, and never build anything real. But there's a proven path that works, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what I'd do if I were starting from scratch today. First, you need to understand that $100,000 a month is not some unreachable fantasy. It's a real number that thousands of people hit every single year. The difference between them and everyone else isn't luck or magic. It's strategy, focus, and execution. They picked one thing, got really good at it, and scaled it systematically. The foundation of everything starts with identifying a genuine market need. You can't just create something you think is cool and expect people to buy it. You need to find a problem that people are actively paying to solve right now. This is critical. The best businesses solve expensive problems for people who are desperate for solutions. Let me give you a real example. Instead of trying to build the next social media app that competes with TikTok, you'd look for niches where people are already spending money. Maybe it's small business owners struggling with their accounting. Maybe it's fitness coaches who need better client management tools. Maybe it's real estate agents who want smarter lead generation. These are people with money, with problems, and with no perfect solution yet. Once you've identified your market, you need to validate it before you build anything. Talk to 50 people in that market. Ask them about their biggest struggles. Find out how much they're currently paying to solve those problems. Most people skip this step and build products nobody wants. That's a massive waste of time. Now here's where most people get it wrong. They think they need to build the most advanced, feature-rich product ever created. You don't. You need to build a minimum viable product that solves the core problem better than the current solution. That's it. You want to get to market fast, get real customers, and iterate based on feedback. The reason this matters is time to revenue. If you spend 12 months building the perfect product and never make a single dollar, you've wasted a year. But if you spend 4 weeks building something simple, launch it, and start getting customers and revenue in week 5, you're ahead. You can improve the product while you're making money. So you build your MVP, you get it live, and now you need to get your first customers. This is where sales and marketing become everything. You can't just build it and hope they come. You need a distribution strategy that works for your market. For B2B products, this often means direct outreach. You find your ideal customer. You reach out personally, and you have real conversations. You explain your solution, you listen to their needs, and you either help them or you learn why they're not interested. This is not scalable forever, but it gets you your first customers fast. For consumer products, you might use content marketing, paid advertising, or social media to build awareness. You might partner with influencers or build a community. The specifics depend on your market, but the principle is the same. You need to reach people who need your solution. Here's the thing about those first customers. They're not just customers. They're testimonials, case studies, and proof of concept. They give you the social proof and credibility you need to acquire more customers. And that's where growth accelerates. Once you have traction, you need to optimize your unit economics. This means understanding exactly how much it costs you to acquire a customer and how much profit you make from each customer. If you spend $100 to acquire a customer and they spend $500 with you, that's a great unit economy. If you spend $500 and they spend $100, you're in trouble. Your goal is to get to a point where you can profitably scale. This means you can spend money on advertising, sales, or content, and it directly results in more profitable revenue. Once you have that figured out, growth becomes straightforward. You just pour more resources into your most effective channels. Now, as your revenue grows, you're going to hit a ceiling. You're doing everything yourself, and there's only so much time in a day. This is actually a good problem because it means you're successful. The solution is to delegate and hire. Your first hire should take something off your plate that's not directly generating revenue. Maybe it's customer support, maybe it's accounting, maybe it's social media. You want to buy back your time so you can focus on the highest leverage activities. For most founders, that's product development and strategy. As you scale, you're going to need a team, but you want to be very intentional about who you hire. You want people who are excellent at their specific role and who believe in what you're building. Culture matters, even in small teams. Bad hires slow you down massively. Here's another critical thing that most people miss. You need to have systems and processes. As you grow, You can't rely on heroes or on tribal knowledge. You need documented systems so that new team members can be productive quickly, and so you're not a bottleneck. But let's zoom out for a second. How do you actually get to 100,000 a month? There are several paths, and you need to choose the one that fits your market. Path 1 is volume. You find a product that costs $20, you sell it to 5,000 customers per month, and you hit your number. This typically requires significant marketing spend and a scalable distribution channel. Path 2 is higher price points. Maybe you sell a service for $5,000 per month to 20 customers. That gets you to 100,000. This requires a different sales process and typically less marketing volume. Path 3 is a combination. Maybe you have a product tier at $50 and another at $500. You sell a mix of both. The key is choosing a path that fits your competitive advantages and the market you're in. If you're great at direct sales and relationship building, maybe higher ticket is your play. If you're great at marketing and content, maybe volume is your play. Now let's talk about something that people don't want to hear. Scaling to 100,000 a month is genuinely hard. You need relentless focus. You can't be distracted by shiny opportunities or new ideas. You commit to one market, one customer profile, one solution, and you become the best in the world at serving that specific niche. This means saying no a lot. No to feature requests that don't serve your core customer. No to opportunities that distract you from your main focus. No to partnerships that don't directly serve your growth strategy. Focus is brutally important. Another thing most people underestimate is the importance of retention. It's always cheaper to keep an existing customer than to acquire a new one. So as you grow, you need to obsess over customer satisfaction and retention. If your customers are leaving, you're just filling a leaky bucket. This means investing in your product, your support, and your relationship with customers. It means listening to feedback and actually implementing the most important improvements. It means treating customers like they matter because they do. Let's also talk about money management. If you hit 100,000 in revenue, that doesn't mean you have 100,000 in profit. You have expenses, you have team members to pay, you have infrastructure costs. You need to understand your margins and make sure you're actually profitable. Most businesses that scale to 100,000 in revenue are profitable, but some aren't. They're burning money and relying on outside investment. If you want true independence, you want to be profitable and reinvesting profits back into growth. Here's a secret that successful founders know. The business that makes 100,000 a month is often not that complicated. It's usually one good idea, executed really well, sold to a market that needs it. The complexity comes from scale, but the core is simple. So if I were starting from zero tomorrow, here's my exact approach. First, I'd spend 2 weeks identifying a market where I have some advantage or insight. Maybe it's an industry I've worked in. Maybe it's a problem I've personally experienced. Maybe it's a niche I understand deeply. Then I'd spend 1 week talking to people in that market, understanding their problems and their willingness to pay. If I found real desperate pain and evidence that people would pay for a solution, I'd move forward. Next, I'd spend 3 to 4 weeks building a minimum viable product. Just the core feature, nothing fancy, just solving the main problem in a simple way. Then, I'd spend 2 weeks launching and getting my first 10 customers. This might be through direct outreach, through partnerships, through content, or through paid advertising. The method depends on the market. From there, I'd focus on understanding unit economics and optimizing them. I'd measure everything. How much does each customer cost to acquire? What's their lifetime value? What's my margin? Once I understood those numbers, I'd know if I could profitably scale. With validated unit economics, I'd pour resources into my best channels. Maybe that's hiring salespeople if it's direct sales. Maybe that's scaling ad spend if it's paid advertising. Maybe that's creating more content if that's what's driving growth. As revenue grows, I'd hire to eliminate my bottlenecks. I'd build systems. I'd focus obsessively on retention, and I'd stay disciplined about not chasing shiny objects. Most people who fail in this journey fail because they give up too early, they lack focus, or they build something nobody wants. If you avoid those traps and execute on a real market need with a good product, the path to 100,000 a month is actually fairly clear. The businesses that make serious money are not magical, they're not lucky, they're executing a straightforward strategy in a focused way over time. They picked a market, they became excellent at serving that market, and they scaled systematically. The biggest thing holding you back is probably not skill or intelligence, it's clarity and commitment. Most people have never actually committed to building one thing to excellence. They're always hedging, always planning to do something else, always half invested. Real success comes from total commitment. So if you want to make your first 100,000 a month, stop planning and start building. Identify your market, validate it, build your MVP, get your first customers, and scale from there. It's not complicated, but it does require focus, discipline, and the willingness to stick with it, even when it gets hard.